everybody, and welcome to Jewellfamilyfarm. Today we're going to be making a crustless kale and onion quiche. I hope you join us. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is get my egg mixture ready. Heat your oven up to 425. Alright, so that's done. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is I'm going to mix up some eggs. So I'm going to use, it calls for 3 eggs, but because these are kind of on the small side, look at all these different color eggs I have. These are kind of small eggs. I'm going to use 4, but you need 3 large eggs. All right. This is a pretty good recipe. I really like it, and it's pretty simple to make. And as usual, it's pretty much everything you have in your house. I did have to buy the kale, but we're going to use that for a couple of different things this week. So, and if I had some in the garden, that's what I would be using, but I don't have any kale out there right now. All right, so you use 3 large eggs, but because I don't have large eggs right now, I'm just going to use 4 small eggs. So it equals out about the same. All right, to that you're going to use, now let me talk about the milk. The recipe calls for 3/4 of a cup of half and half and 3/4 of a cup of whole milk. Now I don't have half and half, so all I had was some canned cream and I had some whole milk. So what I did was I used 3/4 cups of canned cream and 3/4 cups of whole milk. So that comes up to 1.5 cups of milk altogether. So I'm going to pour that in. I try to use what I have on hand. Alright, and then to that, we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then just some pepper, however much pepper you want to use. I like a lot of pepper. All right, we're going to whisk this up. We're going to let this sit here for a few minutes while we make the other stuff. All right, now we have the kale here, and this is what kale looks like. You get it in any grocery store. You grow it in your garden. It's really easy to grow in the garden. We have to wash it really good because it just lays out on the shelf at the grocery store, and you know, who knows who all's had their hands on it. So wash it really, really good. And we're going to take this big rib out right here. You don't want that. You just pull it apart. Pull the greenery off of the stalk. And we need 2 cups of this. Now if you use cream in this recipe instead of the whole milk, this is a keto friendly meal because we're not going to use a crust in it. And if you substitute the cream, I mean the half and half and the whole milk with just cream, it'll be keto friendly. And I have done that before and it works out really nice. Now, you need a lot of this because once you cook it up, it's going to shrivel up to like little teeny tiny amount. So you want 2 cups of cooked kale. It's kind of a guessing game. So you probably need to double the raw kale, which would be about 4 cups of raw kale, and it'll cook up into about hopefully 2 cups of cooked kale. So we're just going to take this and we're just going to cut it up, do a rough cut on it. Once your piece is fairly small, But they will cook up, like I said, and they'll be even smaller. So. Also, the thing about kale and different things, depending on where it's grown, it could be sandy also. So you want to make sure that you wash it really good. I'm going to put this over here in this bowl. And I think maybe that'll cook up and make about 2 cups of cooked kale, I'm hoping. Alright, so I have my onion here. I'm going to cut up an onion. And put that in here too, because it's all going to be cooked together. You can cut these up smaller if you want. They'll also cook up fairly small. You can make little small pieces if you want. You can also use green onions from the garden or green onions from the grocery store. It does call for 5 green onions, and then it calls for 3 cloves of garlic, which I don't have cloves, so I'm just going to use 1 tablespoon of this minced garlic. Okay. I think that's all it calls for. And we're going to take it over to the stove, and we're going to cook this up in let's see. I think it's 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil and 1 tablespoon of butter. So let's go over to the stove. All right, so we're going to put 1 tablespoon of butter in here. And 1 tablespoon of oil. And you can use olive oil, you can use real butter. I just happen to have this here on hand, so. Alright. Now if you want to use it, if you want to keep it keto, you're going to have to use real butter. We're going to let all this melt down. I'll usually use real butter for everything. But when I went to the store yesterday to get groceries, the butter was just so expensive. I just didn't want to spend that. And I like this kind of butter here, this kind of butter. I like the taste of it pretty good, so it's not too bad. But if you're keto, you can't use that. You have to use regular butter. Real butter. Alright. So I'm going to try to dump this over in here so that this garlic and onions get on the bottom first. And they can cook up. Alright, we're just going to let this cook and simmer a little bit. Let it start wilting down. Let these onions and garlic cook on the bottom. Might need to add a little bit more kale. I'm going to kind of see how it looks once it cooks down some. But I think that should be about what should make about 2 cups. I'm hoping. It's kind of an iffy thing with kale and spinach and all that because it just shrivels up so small. Well, I got my bunny cages all made outside, so I'm excited about that. I took both of the bunnies down. I'm gonna probably go down and put some Christmas lights up in my bunny house. just to give me more light. I do have heat lamps down there now, but it's kind of hard to see with the heat lamps because they're red. They have that red glow to them. So anyway, I'll do a movie on those, a video on those here shortly. Probably this afternoon. I don't know, it's supposed to rain. But we're just going to let this cook down. And once it gets shrunk down, I'll come back. So as you can see, it's like really wilting down, and I still have the onions and stuff on the bottom here. This is wilting down a lot. I want your onions to be soft. This makes a 9-inch quiche if you want to buy yourself a crust, an already made crust. You should try and make your own crust over from scratch, because even if, you know, it doesn't have to look the best if you're just having it for your family. But you should try to make a crust, because the crust really does make this, a homemade crust really does make this taste really, really good. It just takes it, you know, a step closer to something delicious. But I don't want the crust, and so I'm just going to give my husband a couple. I have some biscuits. I'll give him a couple of biscuits to go with it, but I don't want the crust in it because I'm trying to cut back on some flour. And that's about all I want to do with this right here. Just as long as these onions are fairly soft, because they'll finish cooking up in the oven. Alright, I'm going to stick this over here in our baking dish. And then I'll show you what else we're going to do. So if you're going to bake this in a crust, whether it be a pre-made crust that you buy from the grocery store or a crust that you make, you need to cook your crust in the oven for 12 minutes. You also need to put some foil in your crust and put your dried beans in there so that the crust doesn't puff up and make a big bubble, and that'll keep your crust flat. So you'll cook that for 12 minutes and then bring it out. Alright, so since I'm not going to have a crust in mine, I'm going to spray this down. And you can butter this if you like. Or you can put a little oil in it. But you need to put something in it, because if not, the eggs will stick to it and you won't never get it out. So the next thing we do is we're just going to put this in on the bottom. I really do like this quiche. We've had it many times, and I make this a lot. One thing, it's simple. The other thing is it's pretty forgiving if you don't have half and half or cream. You can use milk, and like I said, canned milk, or and it's simple, and it's very inexpensive to make, and most of the things that you have is from, staples that you have in your refrigerator or from your garden. All right, so the next thing I want to do is we're going to put some shredded cheese on top of this. It calls for 1/3 of a cup of cheddar cheese. Now, I don't have cheddar cheese. I have Cloves Jack. So I'm going to put this on there. And that's another thing, you can add as much or as less cheese or no cheese. That's up to you. But I'm going to put some more. It only calls for 1/3 of a cup, but I'm going to put some on top too. All right. And then we pour the eggs on. Give them a good whisk again. And just pour that over it. Now you can double this recipe or you can cut it down. It's pretty forgiving. But it really is good. And I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit more cheese on the top. Just because I really, really, really like cheese a lot. And that's it. And we're going to stick this in the oven. Let me show you what it looks like. Okay, isn't that pretty? And we're going to stick that in the oven and let it bake. We'll start it off about 30 minutes. And we'll be back. Okay, so here it is right out of the oven. And you also, if you want to put meat in this, like if you want to fry you some sausage or some bacon and add that to this, you can do that. But I would fry it separately from the kale, you know, and then mix it together after it's cooked. It's still pretty warm. This took 20 minutes to bake instead of 30, I think, because it's pretty thin. Kind of hard to get out. That's what it looks like. It's pretty thin. Now you can double this recipe and make it, you know, thicker, depending on the pie pan that you use. But it's really good. Okay. It's kind of hot still. It's really good. If you like kale, and onions, you'll love this. It's kind of hard to, it's going to be hard to get a good picture of it. But that's what it looks like. There, that's better. Can you see that? There. But it's really tasty. Easy, quick, inexpensive. It's a good hearty meal. It's got a good stuff in it, and you can go keto with this also if that's what you choose to do. You can add, like I said, bacon. You can fry up some bacon or some sausage, or you can fry up any kind of like kielbasa type things. I would put it in. I would slice it very thin though. Put really thin. You could probably even put pepperoni on this. So there's a lot of variety that you can do with this. And as long as you go by the main recipe as far as the eggs and the milk goes, you can add and take out what you want. So I hope you enjoy this recipe. Give it a try. It's really nice for summer nights when you're tired and you just, you know, you want something good to eat, but you don't want to cook a whole meal. This is a great almost one dish recipe. So I hope you try it. Take care. Please like and subscribe, and I'm hoping to get some bunny pictures up real soon, probably tomorrow. And I'm really loving the cages that my husband made for me, and the bunnies are loving them also. And we have 2 new bunnies. So hope to see you tomorrow. Take care. Count your blessings. Bye for now.